Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Amen. So let's unpack this metaphor, because we know that Jesus likes to speak in metaphors, and that's what he uses a lot here in Sermon on the Mount. What does light do? All right, light exposes darkness. So Jesus calls us to live in a way that shines his truth into a dark world, the world that we live in, that we've lived in for a long time. Not just us, not just our generation. It's just that right now, it feels like it just gets a little bit darker and darker through each passing generation. Light symbolizes hope, truth, and guidance. Our faith isn't meant to be private. A lot of people like to keep their faith private. They don't like to expose it. And it could be for many reasons. It could be because they're worried about what others may say. They're worried about persecution, especially in the temperature that we live in today, the type of environment, like everything's changed. And now it's like being a Christian is just such a bad thing to be nowadays, apparently, right? A lot of people keep it private. Jesus was talking about this how many years ago? But he knew what was going to happen. He knew that the world was going to get darker. So he made sure he let all of us know through his word that we are meant to be this light, exposes the darkness. What does that mean? It's meant to shine in a way that others can see and be drawn to God. The verses that I just read says, in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds. But it's not because of you. And if you stop reading here, then I understand why you would think that. But the next sentence, or half of that sentence, says, and glorify your Father in heaven. So it's not because of your good deeds. It's because of him. We want people to be drawn to God. We are going to be the light, but it's for him. Another part of this is the city on a hill. So what does that mean? Jesus says a city on a hill cannot be hidden. Our faith should be visible. Just as a bright city on a hill stands out, our lives as believers should be a visible testimony of God's goodness. So every day that we're walking, we should be walking in the Spirit, with the Spirit guiding and ordering our steps. We should be walking in light. We should be that testimony, that living, breathing, walking testimony that whoever sees us says, there's something different about that. There's something different about her. I wonder what it is. There's something different about him. I wonder what it is. And they're drawn to that. And that's when you can just start to have a conversation. When they're drawn to that light, we understand that we're all sinners. We're all born into sin. We may sin differently, but we all sin. The difference would be practicing sin. As believers, the good thing is that we have the Spirit of the Lord to convict us. Right? So when I say walk in testimony, be a testimony, it's not to be self-righteous. It's not to be, I'm holier than thou. We're talking about there's just a light within that person that is drawing me to that person, but for a purpose. And that purpose is God. Our good deeds should point others to the Lord. It's all about his glory, not to boost our own image.
Sometimes it's the most practical things of showing you're a Christian. It's not about quoting 1,000 scriptures to people or beat them over the head with something. It's little things like the kindness that we talked about earlier, but it's also can be you show up to work on time. You are pleasant at work.
Yes.
You're positive. You're pleasant. You have a smile on your face. You're appreciative being at work. You'd be surprised how people see things that we do habitually, that they take it in a negative way, and they will correspond that with your religion. They'll look at you in a certain way like, well, yeah, she's a Christian, but she doesn't really have much regard for this job.
Mm-hmm.
A supervisor would see that.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll look at you and relate to us in a way that's just very practical.
Right.
And if we master those things, it builds again the relationship to go into the more things in depth with God. I just watch people sometimes, and they watch us for every little detail with everything. if we blew up when somebody said something, if we had to have a tit for tat and go back with them,
Yes, yes.
they'll say, "Oh, I thought you were a Christian," you know.
Absolutely. They'll be
You
quick.
know, so they'll be quick to say that. And no, it doesn't mean that we have to be perfect. Doesn't mean that we don't ever get upset or have a difference of opinion. It's just how do we respond? And that
Absolutely.
is what I think is ongoing for us. That no, it's not about perfection. It's perfecting in our walk with Christ. And how do we respond? How do we grow with him? How do we mature?
Right.
That's a big deal to be able to mature in your walk with God, so that things that messed with you before, you have a different reaction to it later on. And when things like that happen, you can like clap your hands and go like this, like, yay, God, I was able
Yeah.
to get past that little test.
I know that recently, not that I changed my prayer, but I started adding to my prayer for the Lord to dig deep into my heart and just remove or change things that needed to be changed. When we come to the Lord, there's a process. It's called the sanctification process. And little by little, the Lord starts to mold you and starts to change you if you allow him to, if you surrender. There are things that it's harder to surrender. And one of those is like what you just mentioned at work. When people are watching you, when people know that you're Christian and you're serving the Lord, they're the first ones to keep an eye on you, to see how you move. And a lot of times it's to see if there's a difference because maybe they desire something different. We're image bearers so that everybody can see him and not me, so that everybody can see his goodness, so that everybody can see his love. Just like a city on a hill cannot be hidden, we as believers are called to be visible. It's not to draw the attention to ourselves. You see people, they do it to get attention, they do it to get likes, they do it to get more followers, but you see people that are there to be genuine, and the Lord knows your heart. Keep in mind that this is all what's the heart behind everything. So again, it's not to draw the attention to ourselves, but to reflect God's love and God's truth in the midst of a world that desperately needs it. And it's not just about what we say, it's how we live. Just like Dee was just saying, the way we interact with others, the choices we make should be a living, breathing testimony of God's redeeming love and his goodness. Our lives should radiate his grace. That's what the light's supposed to do, is it radiates. It's showing the transformation that has taken place in our lives. The evangelists on the streets aren't just sharing words, they're sharing hope, and we're called to do the same thing wherever God places us. I feel like God's placed us here. This is how we're sharing his love and his goodness and his grace right through this podcast. Maybe it's just at the grocery store. It's not just about, money or what you can do for others. You can just help them with something. Just help, somebody pick up their groceries and take it to the car. And you don't see a lot of that nowadays. I want us to take a moment to reflect. How does your light shine in the world that sometimes wants to hide from the truth? I want all of our listeners to take a moment and reflect on that. How does your light shine in a world that sometimes wants to hide from the truth? And what are the ways we might unintentionally hide our light? Fear, busyness, or wanting to fit in?